Is this a worthwhile refresh, or is it just some formation lights that nobody asked for? Hey there, I'm John. This is Two Brothers RC, and this is the Freewing EF2000 Typhoon version 2, but really, version 4. I'll explain why in a bit. It's beautifully detailed, it flies awesome on my setup, and I'll show you how to do it, and it looks great doing it too. So let's dive into it and see how it stacks up to the no patent pending Two Brothers review system. Let's start by giving you my actual opinion on the Typhoon, and then an overview of the changes that I noticed from version 3 to version 4. Yes, I did say version 4 earlier. The 2023 version of this jet, aka the previous one, was version 3. The one before it with thrust vectoring was version 2. They say this is V2, I say it's V4. You don't have to agree, but this is my video and I'm gonna say what I want. That said, this jet flies incredible. It's not as agile as the Freewing J10 that I've demoed before. The lack of full-span elevons, something that they really should have added to this update, prevents it from flipping and spinning as well as the J10 does. But it makes up for it by being about 75% as agile as the J10 and 200% more stable. It doesn't roll as fast, but it's also way less likely to want to kill itself when you do cool stuff with it. Does it qualify as a new version? Unlike most of the new versions of these Freewing jets, I feel this one actually does qualify. Lately, all they've done is minor changes with formation lights that nobody asked for. I know some of you guys asked for it, I just like saying that because I'd rather have full span elevons instead of formation lights. Yes, I'm salty. They do look awesome though, and yes, you can control them with a switch if you add a switch to it. More on that in the setup section later. Here's a whole list of changes that I noticed. The canard servos are no longer being operated in roll by default. This is a huge update and very welcome too. Delta wings do not operate in roll with canards on full-scale fighters, and I'm glad they made them pitch only in this model too. This has another useful benefit that we'll talk about in the setup guide, but long story short, you need one channel for canard control on my setup now instead of two channels. They hollowed out the battery tray and set it up the way that I had mine set up on the V3 jet. You can shove an SMC 4200 4-cell battery all the way under the air brake and put one in front of it and still balance behind the CG marks by about 10 to 20 millimeters. That's awesome, but not far enough for my tastes. More on that soon. I'm not sure why they crowed so much about this being a major change, but they shifted the CG marks back by about 10 millimeters. It's also easier to hit that CG point now and go behind it, but you need to do surgery to go further, even with the recommended weight in the tail that I'll show you later. I still recommend a minimum of 20 millimeters behind the marks, and 40 millimeters is what I recommend to actually get closer to how a fighter jet balances. Additionally, one of the biggest changes was fixing the f***ing landing gear sequencing. It was awful in version 3. Here's an example of how long it took. By comparison, here's how fast it is now out of the box with zero mods to the gear or its sequencer. There are some negative changes though. The fuel tank pylons are connected to the fuel tanks permanently. Unlike version 3, you can't just leave the pylons installed without removing the fuel tanks too. The entire apparatus has to come off of the wing. This is actually a step backward for Freewing because all of the ordnance should be removable. They did set this precedent after all. And the pylons should be something that you can install without the ordnance attached to it. That being said, the stock servos seem to be upgraded a bit too, because they definitely sound a bit different than how the stock Freewing servos did in the past. But the two elevon servos are a total joke with how slow they are, making them useless for gyro stabilization with an aft center of gravity. I'm using a pair of high-tech D85 MG servos, and I'm gonna say that I think these are required if you want to make this jet perform well. A link to the servos is below if you'd like to try them out for yourself. Unlike the F-22 version 2, this is not just adding some lights and calling it a day. They actually made some substantial changes to the version 4 jet, and it's definitely worth upgrading to from version 3 as a result. Now that we've covered the changes, let's dive into the metrics. The Typhoon is not prone to accelerated stalls in stock form. It's simply too nose-heavy for that. You can pull the stick as hard as you want and it won't stall out on you. That changes when you remove the air brake mechanism and shove the batteries under the air brake. Now you can actually stall the jet, and you can get some interesting maneuvers out of it too, like this hard flip that turns into a flat spin from stalling. Unlike the V3 jet, this is actually substantially easier to make less nose-heavy. On an 8-cell setup, which I do recommend flying here, slide one SMC 4200 4-cell pack under the air brake completely, and put another just in front of it. It'll still be a little nose-heavy, but nowhere near as bad as V3 was out of the box. I do recommend putting some weight in the tail too. I'll show you where at the end of the vid. It's not much, but it does help. The Typhoon takes off very quickly. This jet is a contender for stall competitions, at least if you set it up the way I did. If you use my transmitter setup after becoming a channel member via twobrosrc.com/supporters, you can throw a switch to lift the canards quickly to help get the nose up and make the jet rotate fast. It's almost scary how fast it can rotate like this. Even version 3 was able to do it too. The setup I'm demonstrating here makes landing very easy. Hold the nose up on the approach, use throttle to control your altitude, chop throttle right before touching down. Steer the jet with rudder the entire way down to the ground. I highly recommend that you avoid the temptation of using the throttle stick as an on-off switch on your first flight and start performing touch and goes. Take off, line up, touchdown, take off again, line up, touchdown, do it again. Keep doing it until you master it. Then maybe get cheeky with it and do last-second gear drops, which this jet excels at doing. Landing is not hard if you put in the work, but it does require effort to learn how to do it well. On both the 6 and 8 cell setups seen throughout this video so far, you have plenty of thrust to work with. The 8 cell setup is somewhat heavier, but requires less throttle to fly. The 6 cell setup is lighter, but requires more throttle to fly. The trade-off is that you can generally run larger 6-cell batteries like these SMC 6400 HV3 packs, unless you take the air brake mechanism out and fly 6400 HV3 4-cell batteries in series, in which case you give up the scale air brake for a scale center of gravity and 6-minute average flights while not needing to baby the throttle as much. The Typhoon earns a 5 out of 5 in maneuverability. Moving on to flight time, what I expect here is an average of 5 minutes to score 5 out of possible 5. Jets historically have a bad reputation for flying for only a few minutes at a time, and for being battery destroyers. Not only is it possible to get 5 minutes average per flight with the Typhoon, it doesn't have to come at the cost of destroying your batteries either. Part of this is because we're shifting the center of gravity further out. Part of it is also because I'm flying with good batteries. I fly exclusively with SMC HV3 packs, which have temperature stickers on the back of them which turn black if I abuse them. These temperature stickers on the back tell you if you've abused the battery, and because I didn't get it below 29 volts at any point during the flight, this didn't turn black, which means if it had turned black, it would have ruined the battery basically, or significantly shortened its lifespan. I averaged 5 minutes per flight with SMC 4200 on 8-cell setup, and nearly 7 minutes with 6400 SMC HV3s on the 8-cell setup as well. Neither of the packs showed any damage at all, nor did any of the 6-cell packs when I flew it on those. No puffing, no temperature warning. This is why you fly with voltage telemetry. Follow our NX radio tutorial linked below in the description to see how to do it, and perhaps I'll make a video guide on how to stop destroying your batteries too. Typhoon earns a 5 out of 5 in flight time. Next up is checking the landing gear, which is one of the most crucial components of the aircraft. We're looking for a few things here, notably whether the wheels suck, if there's any suspension system, if the gear require a lot of work to maintain, and if it works every time you throw the switch. Typhoon does well overall here, and we're going to start by looking at whether the wheels are noisy instead of functional going forward, because an airplane flat out sucks if the wheels don't work, so what's the point of even reviewing that? And because nothing sucks more than a great landing that sounds like a dumpster rolling down 5 flights of stairs. That said, the wheels are quiet, which is odd, considering Freewing jets tend to be noisy on touchdown. The wheels are also attached to a robust suspension system, despite me forgetting to demonstrate it for you. Trust me, there are shocks on the struts, and they do work for you grass pilots out there. Despite that, the wheels are hard plastic, but they do soften up a little over time. They should be made of shock-absorbing material in my viewpoint, so that's a ding. The gear require little to no maintenance on pavement, though I can't tell you that you might not have issues with gear doors getting snagged on grass. The gear also worked every time I threw the switch, and since I do an average of 40 touch and goes for every full-length video we produce, it definitely met my standards. Typhoon earns a 4 out of 5 here. Fit and finish is our penultimate category. With 80 and 90mm jets, I'm looking for solid quality paint, foam that doesn't look like ass, decals that aren't cheap stickers, gapless or plastic hinges, and for the battery to get airflow. First up, the paint is immaculate. If it was anything less than that, it wouldn't be a Freewing jet. The foam is also immaculate. Again, if it was anything else, it wouldn't be a Freewing jet. Those are almost 2 free points for any Freewing bird. The hinges are all gapless too, with all moving canards attached to a complex pivot system. It features decals instead of cheap-ass stickers, and while inspecting the jet to ensure that it didn't fail this last checkpoint for airflow over the battery, I noticed that the V4 Typhoon actually has a pair of NACA ducts under the canopy. Those didn't exist in the version 3. I checked, as you can see here. Typhoon earns a 5 out of 5. Nice job slipping that last change past me, Freewing. In one last little thing that didn't actually slip past, it just wasn't relevant until now, the assembly is somewhat faster than V3. You can fit the entire wing tube in the fuselage like an E-flite aircraft, which is super nice. V3 couldn't do that. Instead of 6 3mm hex screws in V3, you have 2 push-button connectors on each side for V4. I'm iffy on these. When they work awesome. When they don't, they're sticky and need to have the wing forced into place before they'll engage. I like that they're installed. I dislike that they're hit or miss, because I almost always get one that sticks and doesn't like to engage. Last up is Avionics and Lighting, and here we'll cover the servo quality, the ESC, the lighting, whether the servos can be easily replaced, and how well designed the battery tray is. Starting with servo quality, our checkpoint system looks for metal servos. What I should also be checking for here is whether the servos are actually fast enough to be useful. The factory stock gyro on this jet is useless on the elevons because they're so slow as to render it completely impotent at the one thing it's designed to do. A gyro needs high-speed servos to actually stabilize the jet. This is why the jet looks less than ideal in the marketing material from the US distributor's YouTube channel, as they mention the factory gyro being tuned. By comparison, the high-tech D85 MG on my Spectrum setup make this jet look like it's twice as big as it is, and it doesn't get bounced around by turbulence either. I will confidently say that this is objectively a significantly better setup than the factory stock option. I was going to give the jet a pass here, but these stock elevon servos are so terrible that I won't stake my reputation on saying that they pass, because they don't. The ESC is a typical blue Freewing 120 amp ESC. It does ESC stuff. You can run 6 or 8 cell motors off of it. It's a simple swap even if you use an afterburner, and I'll tell you how to use an afterburner with a pair of 4 cell batteries here in a few moments too. Also, it never overheated or had any issues at all that I could see, so definitely good stuff there. It has the same variety of lighting that it used to have in V3 with the addition of formation lights. It takes some rejiggering inside to get the lights to run to their own channel, but it's worth it not having them on in bright daylight. They also fixed the wingtip nav lights, which no longer blink and are always solid. They're also not as bright as they were in version 3. The servos can be easily replaced, but be forewarned, it's a bit of a chore to get the D85 servos installed. You will not regret using them though. If you can't figure it out, or if you get stumped, hop on Discord for help and we'll help you out. You basically just need to cut some of the plastic housing in the servo box away and cut some of the servo screw tabs away to fit them in. The battery tray is excellent compared to the V3 jet. If you want a lightweight 8-cell setup, throw an SMC 4200 4-cell under the air brake and put one on top of it, or do what I did and remove the air brake actuator and run both batteries under it, and cut a channel to get the wiring out of the way. You can also do the same thing with the 6-cell pack too if you'd prefer to fly a lighter setup. Just be careful pushing negative G-force on this thing. I can't guarantee the batteries won't shoot out of the brake if you pull hard negative Gs, but it handled everything I did with no complaints, so you're probably fine here too. The Typhoon earns a 4 out of 5 here. Before we wrap this section, I checked with a fellow who runs KMRC Model, the afterburner company we've worked with for years. He explained that to get a pair of 4-cell batteries to run with an afterburner requires nothing more than simply plugging the burner into the battery that the 2 black leads of the series adapter are connected to, as you can see here. I left a little note for myself attached to the black leads so I would never forget. Otherwise, plugging it in with the battery in the red and black leads will burn up the afterburner. The burner looks amazing on this jet, so make sure you hit up KMRC Model and get one for yourself from the link below. Overall, the Freewing Typhoon version 4 scores a 23 out of 25. That's an awesome score. It has a couple of new issues, but it fixes a lot of issues that existed for 3 years prior. It's one of the best airframes Freewing has ever sold, and it's even better in this updated 4th version. I think it's worth getting, even if we don't make any money by recommending it to you because we don't have any affiliate arrangement with the US distributor, because they think these airplanes sell themselves. We, of course, disagree completely. If the airplanes actually sold themselves, Google searching for Freewing jets wouldn't cause every website you visit to inundate you with tons of advertising for the US distributor's website. Also, because nobody sends these to us, channel supporters like you via our membership program make it possible for us to get them to demo for you, because the US distributor refuses to send them out, which is fine. They don't owe us anything, nor do we owe them anything. But we do owe you, because you support us, and we try to support you in return. That said, the Typhoon is awesome, and we do love it, so hit that Google search link in the description and go find it if you want one. Don't miss out on the upgrades coming up next, including the canard servos, which I also upgraded for the first time to AGFRC B13 DLS units. They're super fast. Almost too fast, unless you think Typhoon should be playing Flappy Bird. Here's the gyro gains I used with the Spectrum AS3X Plus. These are throttle-based gains. Do not use these gains unless you set up a throttle-based mix that's identical to the one in the NX radio tutorial linked below in the description. The canards are on their own gyro using a Spectrum AR10360T receiver, so here's the second set of gains specifically for the canards. These are also throttle-based, so make sure that you put them on the same gain channel so that the throttle mix controls both the primary flight control surfaces and canards. Reference the AS3X Plus tutorial in the description below for more information, or simply hop on Discord to ask for help. Like I said earlier, you guys make it possible for us to demo these Freewing jets, so a heartfelt thanks goes out to our channel members on twobrosrc.com/supporters. A very special thanks goes out to our mega fans, Sarasota RC Squadron, Michael Smith, JR Man, Todd, N411X, Jeff Baker, High Alpha Guto, Polly1717, and Scotty Doesn't Know, along with our Ultra fans, TBRC Fan, and FS Radio Control. You guys kick so much ass. Be sure to swing by twobrosrc.com and pick up some of your favorite TBRC merch. Coming up soon will be the Flywing X-Wing. It finally arrived, and it's basically baby's first FPV, but it's tons of fun and incredible to fly too. To get your Typhoon to fly like mine, you'll need to follow this physical setup guide. The first thing I did was cut the plastic bit of the tail boom off and install 28 grams of weight back there. Glue it back and then cover any damaged black paint with black electrical tape. This will help shift the center of gravity further aft with a minimal amount of weight added to the jet. Next, you'll need to split the elevons if you want the receiver to stabilize them properly in AS3X+. The stock setup mixes them automatically in pitch and roll, but I prefer having them wired directly into the receiver. Remove the signal lead for both elevons and plug them directly into the receiver to use the setup file on our Discord server. Pre-made setup files are now a paid perk for channel members, but you're welcome to do all of the programming free of charge by following the previous transmitter setup guide for the version 3 jet, which is also linked below. To follow my transmitter setup on Discord, you'll also need to run the canard servos directly into the mixing board, and run the board's canard lead to your receiver. This saves on 2 channels because the board only operates the canards in pitch, not in roll as it did in version 3. If you want to control the formation lights, use the linked controller in the description below and give it a channel on the 10360T receiver that I'm recommending you use. You'll need to run a servo lead to the vertical tail to control the formation lights, otherwise the stock setup leaves them on all the time, which looks stupid and drains the battery. The final physical mod was installing a longer servo arm on the nose wheel to decrease the turn radius. The stock setup had very limited travel due to using a small servo arm. You can use pushrod keepers if you've got any laying around to replace the existing arm with something better. As always, ask on Discord for help and we'll show you what it takes. That basically covers everything here. I wish I had more time these days to create super involved setup guides like I used to, but I hope this helped with the physical changes to get the most out of the jet. See you guys again in a week. Here's uncut footage of 2 different flights so you can see for yourself and make up your own mind. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Looked at that lightning, didn't you?
I have no idea.
Catch that?
Probably.
I'll do it again. Holy shit, that was cool. That was unintentional. Stalled.